Hey, it's Dr. Brett, and 2022 has been a gigantic year for astronomy and space events and news. We're going to go through the top 10 ones right now. First off, at number 10. Now, 2021 may saw the beginning of space tourism, but in 2022, we saw the first private mission to the International Space Station. Three, we'll say ordinary, they paid a lot of money, people went via a company called Axiom Space, formed by former NASA employees and astronauts, and spent a couple of weeks working, living, and doing science on the International Space Station. They were essentially the first working space tourists, making a new shift in the way humans go into space. Number 9. NASA commemorated the 5,000th exoplanet this year. Now, an exoplanet is an extrasolar planet, a planet going around another star system. The first one was discovered back in 1992, so to reach 5,000 is a huge milestone because these planets, some of them are so dramatically different than anything we have thought of previously. Now we have some that are bigger than Jupiter but are so close to its star it almost skims the star. We think we have one similar to Earth. We have planets that have multiple planets in their stars, sometimes 6 or 7 planets. There's a huge range out there, and having that 5,000th is a special occasion to mark in 2022. 8. Now, at the end of 2021, China announced that they were going to try and complete their space station, the Tiangong space station, by 2022. Now, at the time, a lot of people thought this was ambitious. It was going to require multiple missions, 2 more modules to get into space, and a whole lot of work. And they did it in 2022. A few months ago, they finished their own space station. Now, this makes them the 3rd country to build their own. Obviously, the Russia and US have done this before. And it is now in full operation with taikonauts, Chinese astronauts, spending 6 months durations up there. A huge success for China and a big step forward in the way we explore space. Coming in at number 7. And in May this year, we saw the very first direct image of the supermassive black hole called Sagittarius A star in the center of our Milky Way. Now, this is the second image ever of a black hole that has been directly taken by the Event Horizon Telescope project. And it showed that this monster, which weighs about 4 million times the mass of our sun, is slightly at an angle and definitely does exist because until this direct image, there was still some small doubt it was there, or maybe even 2 ones. It was really exciting to peer into the heart of our Milky Way. 6. Now, the Russian invasion of Ukraine has been one of the biggest stories of the year. Now, what does this have to do with space? It's actually highlighted just how big a role commercial space companies are playing in our everyday lives. Now, this role was actually highlighted by the US Space Force General. We've seen groups like SpaceX and their internet service Starlink provide data to Ukraine to keep them up and running. We've seen Maxar, a telescope system in space that can image any part of the world, provide crucial data, not through a government, but a private commercially run entity. So it's been a remarkably big shift in the way space is accessed and the way it affects our everyday lives. Top 5. Space junk has been one of the big stories of the year, and I'm a little bit biased because of how personal it got for me going down to Dalgety, New South Wales to confirm the bits of space junk that came from the SpaceX Crew 1 trunk. It was a big surprise when farmers Mick and Jock found these pieces, but it wasn't the only piece of space junk catching the world's attention. We had 2 Chinese rocket boosters come back down uncontrolled, safely landing in the ocean. We also had the impact of a rocket booster slamming into the moon and creating 2 craters. Now, the identity of that rocket booster is still unknown, but whether it's in land, sea, or even the moon, space junk has definitely gotten our attention this year. 4. And another story close and personal to me, with a bit of an Australian bias, is the resumption of launching rockets from Australia. NASA teamed up with a private company called Equatorial Launch Australia to launch 3 sounding rockets from Yolngu country in the Northern Territory. This was an exciting step for the Australian Space Agency. We haven't seen a rocket launch from this continent in decades. And in fact, they weren't the only company trying to get off the ground. Southern Launch in South Australia tried to launch 2 small rockets. They had a few problems, but nonetheless, getting rockets into space from Australia is now part of our DNA. Number 3. And this year we saw the long-awaited and multiple times delayed Artemis One Mission takeoff, NASA's attempt at getting humans back to the moon. Now, this mission had a few hurricanes delayed it, there's a few technical problems, and there was no one on it, but they were testing does the rocket, the Space Launch System, and the Orion capsule do its job? And the answer is yes. The Orion capsule went beautifully around the moon, making a safe return back to Earth. But it wasn't the only moon mission. In fact, we saw South Korea, the United Arab Emirates, Japan, and New Zealand all participate in this new moon race. So it's been an exciting year for us and our love of the moon. 2. Now, something I was super excited by, and clearly a lot of other people were, given my Facebook post alone saw nearly 5 million people watching it, was the DART mission. DART was the Double Asteroid Redirection Test. Could we successfully crash a probe into an asteroid and steer it off course? And DART showed the answer was yes. They launched this probe and sent it through space, hurling about 24,000 kilometers an hour. And using a series of AI cameras and trained algorithms, locked onto this asteroid about 160 meters wide and deliberately crashed into it. And the idea was if you crash into it in a certain direction, could you shift or alter its orbit? Now, this asteroid poses no danger, and we don't have one or know of one that poses any danger. But the question is, if we were to find one, could we do something about it? And thanks to the DART, not only is the answer yes, but a whopping yes. The DART moved the asteroid by about 3 times as much as previously calculated and showed that we can fight back in case we ever needed to and revenge the dinosaurs. And the number one story of the year, and without a doubt, James Webb Space Telescope, JWST, is the number one story of the year. Now, this telescope, measuring 6.5 meters wide, has delivered gorgeous, breathtaking views of the universe. And the first batch of images, we saw the beautiful Carina Nebula, almost like a masterpiece artwork, but showing us details of stars and how stars are forming. We saw the most distant galaxies ever with some of the first images of James Webb Space Telescope, peering back over 13 billion light years. We saw even new views of planets in our own solar system. We got up close and personal with Jupiter, seeing its beautiful rings. Yes, Jupiter has rings, moons that are usually too faint to miss. And we spotted Neptune, that icy world in the edge of our solar system, and a breathtaking, gorgeous view. It really is amazing to see these views in a way that we just never have. But it hasn't even been just the views that it's produced. All of the data coming back has transformed our knowledge. Some of the big discoveries have been actually on the atmospheres of planets around other stars, detecting planets that have water vapor. In fact, the planet's so hot it's almost steamy. Complex molecules like carbon dioxide, and so much more. In just 6 months of operation, James Webb Space Telescope has delivered on its promises of opening up a new view of the universe. Thanks for watching. Did you agree with the list? Did you have something different? Was there a story I completely forgot? Because there was a lot to choose from. I'd love to hear what you thought of it in the comments. And make sure to like and subscribe and stay up to date with space because 2023 is going to be big.